I'm trying to turn on my notifications here to see if everything is working. Hopefully it is. It looks like it is so far. Alright. Cool. So I had a lot of problems. It's ridiculous that I have a laptop I pay monthly on now that I got just for this so we could surf the net together and research with me together and learn together and grow together, and it's not working. I can't stream from it suddenly. It wasn't a problem before, but it's a problem now. I'm trying not to jump to conclusions and blame anybody. But I know my son has an Alienware computer. We'll see if he leaves the house, if it gets any better. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't, but one can hope. Alright, so we're going to talk about the new Pope briefly. It's going to be very brief. Right now, I am just showing you my screensaver. It's a nice, I think, AI Bible art, so I like to leave that up. I'm going to do a little ramble for a minute. Anyone that wants to zoom past this can. It's part of my testimony. I try to give little pieces of testimony throughout every video. I do smoke a little bit. Sometimes I do that while I am online because I get anxiety from public speaking at times. So I am a flawed individual. I am not a saint. I wish I was. I would love to be a saint. Not named by man, though, just in God's eyes. We're really seeing the flaws in the churches at this point, in every church and every denomination. And it's just glaring at this point. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a little story because something else happened. Another strange occurrence. I apologize. My allergies are kicking my butt. I've been doing yard work, really pushing myself, and I'm exhausted. So the technical issues, I'm just not even in the mood to deal with right now, frankly. And I apologize for the very lax technical abilities at the moment. But if you're here to hear me ramble, and you're here to hear maybe a perspective that you're not hearing elsewhere in the goings on of today. And I know from the original channel, and I know from my life, that God has led me to all these topics and to all these insights, and the purpose of that is to share with you. God doesn't give us grace. It's not ours to keep. It is supposed to overflow from our cup to others, to the cup of others. And so hopefully in some way, shape, or form, that's what my strange cautionary tale is doing for somebody, even if it's a lone somebody out there. So something strange happened again, and I'm going to start this video that way. I went to the one consignment store that I kind of have left on my list. I still, and I like to spread the funds that I do have in the local economy. I think it's something we can all do in small businesses, entrepreneurialships, yada yada. So the one resale shop, there's only 2 in town. It's a small town, as I've said before. I heard, about this buying of sperm online and all this stuff, and I'm not condemning people that are born through in vitro or anything like that. It's a sign of the times where we're at when you can do this without any safety nets or safeguards in place to make sure that all parties involved are some types of they're held to some type of ethics, for yourself and the child and just everyone involved. It just is a sign of the times, and I like the people that I see every day, the people that I meet in my neighborhood. Isn't that old Mr. Rogers? Anyways, I do like the people that I meet in my neighborhood each day, and I would take them coffee or a donut or whatever. I've taken them tomatoes from my garden, just everybody that I've worked with and everywhere that I go. It's just small things I can do, and still people don't like. Something always goes off, people don't use what I give them, or they don't eat what I cook them, or they don't wear what I buy them, or whatever. And that's why I say grace isn't ours to keep, it should overflow. But I go to the shop again after this last visit, and there's a picture on the wall. And I got to give you a little background. There's this woman that I used to take care of in the local nursing home. I was a nurse aide at two different locations, one in this town, one in the next town over. And there was a woman I took care of who did not like me. I never figured out why. No one ever told me. All I knew is that she treated me poorly. She would yell at me. She was very whiny, and sometimes you're supposed to, with the people that can walk and can take care of themselves, you're supposed to be firm with them, but not abusive, right? So it's like, oh no, it's time to get up for breakfast. You got to get up. And that's kind of why they're there. That's kind of why they give you their money, is to keep them on track. And so this woman hated me. And it got to the point where she was on my rounds or whatever. She was on my unit, and it was the assisted living unit. And she paid well, and she was a daughter. I heard, she probably wouldn't think today that I'd listen to her stories, but she told me how she was a suffragette, one of the first women protesters who protested for equal rights and opportunities, and who, if they didn't want to get married, didn't feel like they should be married off like cattle. And, I think, like most movements, it started with good intentions, but I'm not going to talk down about it because I'm not a part of it. And it's easy to say anything from the outside of any group. And so I know this about her, and I remember this about her. And I also remember, and this is a trend with these ones that are around us. And this is why I say it's very possible that there are only 144,000 children of God left, is because there are others around us who are not God's children. And they all have these same physical traits. Now, she told me that she got to telling me that she could not have children. She did not have any family because her father allegedly was a doctor. Her mother died of cancer, and he didn't want her to die. So he had performed, a hysterectomy on her. Now, I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. My disclaimers, as always, are in the description box. And she shaved her head. And as I said, she was a suffragette, and I think that was an awesome movement. It probably started as a really good movement to help women get equal rights. But for whatever reason, she hated me, and I couldn't go into her room. Fast forward about 10 years, and I am working at the local Dollar Tree, and I can tell you now because I don't work there anymore. And she comes through my line, only she's walking, and she's not in a wheelchair. And she's no longer living as a woman, and she does not have any of her teeth. And I say she's not as a woman because she had pants that were rather tight for a man or whatever, and they were old school jeans, like a farmer outfit, and she had a flannel on, and they were calling her by some other name. Now, her name used to be, and again, I'm going to give a first name. I never give names out, but her name was Margie. And I say this because of what I'm going to say next. She goes into the store. She's a different gender. She's walking. She's no longer in a wheelchair. No teeth. And I'm like, okay, I'll play this game. And I wait on her. And she looks at me, and I know she recognizes me. And I say, oh, hi, how are you? And I didn't say anything. And I told the woman that I worked with, I said, I used to take care of that person, and she lived as a woman. I was in shock, I was like, this is a small town, and this is an older woman. What is happening? And again, I'm still, even though I'm hip to the targeted individual thing, even though I am in the process of being saved and coming back to God, this is just a year and a half ago or whatever, I'm shocked. It wasn't 2 days later that the old administrator, I think she was a dietary aide, but she ended up being on the board for this nursing home where I took care of this woman. She comes in not 2 days later, goes through my line and says, oh, Did you hear about Margie? You know, she passed away. And I'm like, oh, you don't say. And right away, I already know they're running game on me. Like, we can't let this girl know what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Because I think what they're doing is getting me life insurance. And they're now living as different people with different names. And this is what I say. They always rename themselves. They have problems having children. Just like David, Psalm 53, he says, knock out the teeth of my enemies, punch them in their cheeks. None of them have teeth. And I'm not saying that everybody of these groups are bad, wicked, or evil. I'm saying that these ones always have these physical traits. Okay? And CV in 2019 kicked something off, and people are banking on it. Like, they've made money on the election, they turned that into a bet. Wall Street's nothing but legalized gambling, and now life insurance is in on the game. People are collecting on that. I think that's what part of what they wanted to do with me, until they realized, wait a second, you can't do that to her because she's. Anyway, that's when my husband started the whole what's so special about you business. So this woman who hates me, who said I could not wait on her anymore, who then I am waiting on 6, 7 years later, 8 years later in my line as a freaking different person, different gender, walking, no longer in a wheelchair. And I told you, we knew she could walk, and that she was very, like, she wanted to be babied. That's why she came to the rehab institute or whatever, to the nursing home, assisted living, whatever you want to call it. And again, I couldn't tell you her last name if you asked me for it or whatever. But I'm only giving you this information because the woman is supposed to be deceased. Now, I don't know what's going on. Like, I really don't. But more and more, every single day, I feel like Truman. So I go into this local consignment shop the other day, and as I'm cashing out, and I'm already getting a funny vibe the last couple of visits, there's signs of substance use on the premises, and again, this is very obvious when people start using a certain substance. And we have signs of other things happening, which I've told you about before. And as I'm cashing out, on the wall behind the woman is a picture of this woman. Only she's in, like, I don't know, it's a Halloween mask, I guess, and she has her flannel on. He, I guess I should say now, right? He. Is that what's politically correct? What are my predictions for May? As of yet, I don't have any predictions, but I can tell you my insights. I'll get to that in a second. So anyway, this woman who is supposed to be deceased is now living as a man, hates me, seems to, like, haunt me everywhere I go, and I don't know why some of the women in this town hate me. I did not grow up here. It's some type of coven, and I'm not, it's no stretch of the imagination if you go through the rest of my testimony why I think these things. And again, when I say coven, witchcraft, it's not what it used to be. It's, substances and persuasion and, uh, influence, right? It's not women over cauldrons. Like that's not how it is. And so she's in this Halloween mask, and she's on the back wall where, of course, let's be sure she sees this picture. And I'm not saying the whole world is directed at me, but sometimes you've seen everything else I say just seems to occur. And now there's a new pope. And I told you that the last one was already deceased. He had been deceased for a long time. I already knew that. I've been talking about that since 2019. And now you got this Maudie guy. Everyone says don't worry about him, he's nothing. Nah, again, I think he's an actor. Obviously, the people around him, he's like some Negan-looking guy from The Walking Dead, and the people around him are paid to be there or not, maybe. Who knows? But that's what bothers me about this, is real tribulation, and the real tribulation saints and all this aren't going to be shown on TV unless it's an act of God. They won't be seen on the screen. But let's talk about this new pope right quick because I noticed a little symbolism, and I don't want to get too deep into this because I don't really think he matters. I don't think he's going to be around a lot. The picture on the screen is a picture, it's a rendition of Job, I believe. I'm pretty sure. It might have been Isaiah. Ooh, that's kind of a big difference, but it's one of the Old Testament men. Okay, so and it's just a picture I liked. I thought it was pretty to look at, and it would be better than just listening to my voice as I spoke because again, I'm very low tech right now. I am limited to this old device, and it's just BS, honestly. I pay for a VPN browser now. I pay for the laptop now. It's not okay to then censor somebody when they're paying for the services. It's just malarkey. So anyway, this guy, he was born in 1955. He is from Chicago. All right, first thing, and he is 69. All of that right there is high reason or reason to be highly cautious. Okay, I don't know anything about this man, never heard much about him. I'm not going to judge him as a person. He looks pious, he looks humble. Anyone can portray those outward signs if they try to. I know that people fooled me. They had the appearance of godliness, but they denied the power thereof. They know the right things to say, but they give you away with their symbolism. They can't help it. They all speak and sound and act and behave in very similar ways. And again, they have very similar attributes. They can't have children on their own. Now they're wearing the safety vests everywhere and the big, real dark sunglasses and the mirrored sunglasses, and that's a big thing. Okay, so Chicago. When I first started the Brie and Jen channel, the channel with over 150,000 views that I hid, and then they would not give me back any of my videos. And we know nothing on the internet goes away. Now you got a bunch of people in my town making bank from my old quote-unquote predictions, which I do not consent to being exploited. Extortion is wicked. But I digress. Chicago is a stage. So Chicago is one of those set cities. What do I mean by that? LA, Chicago, New York, and almost all of Florida, wherever they say they're at in Florida. They're sets. They're not actual the population, okay, the real genuine organic population is nowhere near what they say it is. Anything they say is usually the opposite of, in fact. We know this. We've talked about this at length. You should have noticed this no matter how asleep anybody was in 2019. Even the sleepers started or should have started suspecting something. But again, there's a reason they're shoving food in everyone's faces and using reverse psychology so they think that there won't be any meat left to eat. They want you to be lazy. They want you to be out of shape. They want you to be distracted. They want you to be sitting down. And they don't need camps to do that. They can do all of that while you pay for it yourself. While I sit here and pay to be censored, I guess, while I pay for the devices, right? I was just talking about that. So Chicago and New York, I talked about at length being sets, and now Pittsburgh's in on the act. That anytime you hear news from these places, it is always suspect. Now, I started the channel looking into the Kanika Jenkins case from Chicago in Rosemont, Chicago, allegedly. I say allegedly for a reason. Because it's because of that that I was brought back to God in part because there were so many demonic influences highly visible in those videos. A lot of people didn't see it, but I'd swear the videos themselves are cursed. I do not encourage you to go back and find them and watch them. But that's how my journey started, is seeing the demons literally right on screen. And now I know, looking back, because of the purple and because of how that girl died, or at least from the pictures and what they showed us, I know, one, they were showing us we were always under surveillance with those little boxes and stuff. Two, they were showing us it was kind of like an induction type thing. It was the start of something. Because you have these markers in time, right? And they're starters of events. And right now, well, at least as of 2018, 29, we all experience this retro causality wave, this backwards tsunami, this explosion, this boom effect of whatever it is that's about to happen in our timeline. We've been feeling the backwards effects of that for a while now. Um, it's very possible a reset already occurred in our time and in our timeline here, and we just don't remember it because too many strange things have happened and too many strange things are going on. I'd also advise you to be highly suspect of any pictures and videos. Picture does not equate proof anymore. It just doesn't. So whatever happened, we all started to feel in like 2017, 2018, and 2019. These effects started to I don't know what to say, come into everyone's life, even on like a micro macro level, okay? Now with the Kanika Jenkins thing, it was like a Masonic type of warning or drum roll or something, I don't know, or opening of a door in that way, because now I recognize it for being, Masonic in nature. Looking back at it, I didn't know at the time because I knew nothing about these things. But I also looked into that case a lot, like really deeply, and I found a couple of connections that nobody else found. One in Sacramento, and I reached out to a journalist out there who wrote the article about a similar case in Sacramento, but again, nobody had talked about the connection. It happened on the same night, and it happened on the same night that I was also traumatized the following year. One of the nights, anyway, a real symbolic night. I think that they were going to try and end me, but fate stepped in, and that did not happen on that night. And yes, I believe there are physical people involved in that. I believe it's at like a cartel type level, but spiritually, it is as old as time. It is from Rome. It is from the Norse gods, the Roman gods. All those pantheons are the same things, just renamed, all the way back to Egyptian and Sumerian times. And what does that have to do with today? Well, that's what we're facing today, and not here in the here and now. That's what we are up against, and we need to be standing and not sitting. We need to be fasting and not gluttonizing ourselves, and we need to be sober and not drunk. And they are trying to get everyone in the opposite condition through a very immature version of reverse psychology. But moving forward, I don't want to digress too much. Chicago is a set. It's one of those places that a lot of the people that are there, that live there now, are already crisis actors. New York is the same way, especially because Broadway is right there, right? A lot of people are actors. They sign in and they sign NDAs and stuff before knowing what they're acting in or what they're in the background of. They just know they're going to be in something. It could be a documentary. It could be a public, PSA. It could be uh, psyop, like we're seeing in our time. Now, one of the reasons that they ended Kennedy that nobody talks about, and again, every time I get my hands on one of these documents, it slips away. One of the reasons that they did him and that they always gloss over, was that they wanted to run psyops on the American people, and he was against that. He did not want to do that on American soil. He thought that was beyond reproach, and again, I've talked about that a little bit too in the past. Now, this new pope, that's why I say I'm not concerned with him in a spiritual way. He is a face in a crowd as far as I'm concerned. My problem is that he's American. Why is that a problem? Everybody's praising him. Everybody's happy. You don't want the Pope to be an American in these times, because America is already under judgment. So it's very possible he's going to be some type of scapegoat, just like Biden was. They slipped Biden in after they did Project Warp Speed, Operation Warp Speed. Everybody always forgets about who did that. Um, but they slipped Biden in to be like this sacrificial lamb, right? So, to like pin everything on him. And then they bring in Trump as a savior again. Worked perfectly. Excuse me, I'm gonna. Ooh, I apologize. My allergies are kicking, and I gotta go outside and like plant some stuff. So I'm trying to get through this. But again, there's a lot happening, and it's not a good time for my devices to be down. And if all you do is listen, that's a good thing. Like, if we can learn from each other, because we're all being given a different slice of this. And this is why I share other channels on my channel, because they're being given pieces of this too. And a lot of our pieces are very similar. Now, some people are straight up stealing some of what I'm saying. Again, you don't want to partake of what's going to happen to me in the end of all this, because my end is not going to be great. So you should not want to um, align with me in that way, right? Like, you just shouldn't point people back to this channel, or point people to God and say, this is what God is telling us. But don't monetize the messages that I bring, because that you and I'm just a warning, you don't want to do that. Anyways, moving on. Um Chicago is a set, but the fact that he's American is concerning, because I think he's going to be like Azazel. I think he's going to be in the book of Enoch. I think he's going to be a sacrificial lamb, because right now America is under judgment. And they want it to be a new Rome. Another reason it's a bad sign, and I've told you this and nobody else agrees with me, the Antichrist is American. And I know you think America's not in the Bible, but America is not America. America is Babylon. It is Egypt. It is old. There is nothing new here under the sun. America has been here. It has been here. That's why they don't want certain ones of us in certain locations or traveling, because they know if we see certain things, we will wake up all the way and say, wait a second, this is all old. We've been here for a long time. Why are you saying this is the new world? None of it's new, but they don't want you to know how old. They want you to think savage, right? Like Native American Indian type things. And that's not what was here either. USA is within Jerusalem for a reason. We have Salems and Bethlehems all over for a reason. I live right down from a place called Corinth. I had no idea. Mecca is also down the other way from me. It's actually to the north of me, ironically enough. I lived in a place that was all named all after all France, everywhere. And I'm French, but I lived in a place called North Versailles. They called it North Versailles. Duquesne was right there, Duquesne University. Saint Vincent and all this. Everything was Catholic. People knew that Christ was the Savior. There was no question about it, like there has been for the last generation or so. We are not in the time that we think we are in. We are not in the place that we think we are in. They are making, what is that joke where there's only one person who's not in on it? I always call it a mulligan, but I think that's wrong. It's an Irish word, but I don't think it's a mulligan. Anyway, there's some mulligans, 144,000 probably mulligans scattered all over, and we're all with different families intentionally. None of us know our history intentionally. None of us know where we come from intentionally. It's all been done with intention. So when I say Chicago is a set and the American Pope is something you should be worried about and not praising, I say it with all serious intent. I mean it. But like, we are not in the time that everyone thinks we are in. Okay, so he is 55. 55, that's a big number. Any double digit or triple digit right now is big. But especially 55 and the 666, we will see that, but it's not going to be, it's not how people think that is. 44 is also big right now, but you're seeing a lead up to 666. Five Guys is a thing, 5G is a thing, right? Red and black is the colors. Their animals are dragons and bulls and sometimes rats. Again, I'm giving you a lot of symbolism here on purpose so that when you see these people, you know who they are, okay? All right, so he's also 69 years old. And I don't mean that in the sensual manner. I mean 69 as in the zodiac, as in twins. There's always a twin, right? There's always a doppelganger, right? That's why doppelganger was on my mind. I couldn't figure out why God was telling me to talk about doppelgangers in the new pope, but here we are. And I already told you the new pope, the last pope was a couple different people, and I know that for a fact. And the Pope and the Queen were both gone at the same time. All the world leaders were taken out at the same time. Leo 13th. Leo, law enforcement officer. Leo, lion. There are so many different meanings for Leo, it's not even funny. And again, I'm trying to talk fast because this video, I wanted to start it at 9 and be done at like 10. And that's not what happened, obviously. And I have work to do outside and things that need attention to. Because I have to pretend like I have a life. Because even if I go away from this place, even if God lets me leave, a garden is something everybody can leave behind. Okay. So he's 55. There's an 88 involved. No, he was born in 1955. I'm sorry. And he's 80 years old. Elon Musk threw that number out there a couple of months ago in an interview. Just out of nowhere, he said the number. And so I pointed to that in a video. You'll have to go back and watch that video. But whenever I talk about Elon, I always use him as a thumbnail just so I can click back real fast and I know where it's at. I don't like talking about the guy. He's smarmy. He bothers me. I know he's a proxy. And again, I know these people. Whatever. The Antichrist is American. Whatever American means. We are Babylon. We are Egypt. We are, haha, the joke is on us. You know, it's a big, like, haha, neener, neener, you didn't know. We tricked you. We fooled you type of thing. And again, there are Truman, probably 144,000 of us scattered about. So this new pope is significant only for the symbolism that he brings to the table, because I don't think he's going to be here long. He's going to be gone pretty quickly. Why do I say that? Because they got rid of the pope and the queen at the same time. They're getting rid of world leaders, people in high positions. They're either pushing them out through fight for democracy, in the Middle East, or you're seeing this like Game of Thrones happen like you're seeing in Britain. Queen Anne fell off of a horse. She had amnesia. King Charles has the big C. Kate Middleton has the big C. You're seeing this like takeover of all of the high positions in the quote unquote secular world. Okay. However, symbolism is the only reason that the screen matters, because they will never show you the real persecution on the screen. Okay, and I believe that has happened and is happening already, but there's good stuff happening at the same time. Again, I get, when God gives me things, it's like almost from his perspective. There is no time constraint, so it's hard for me to put them in chronological order. I've always been kind of a backwards learner compared to everybody here. Maybe I do belong somewhere with a higher frequency, and I fell down and went boom like everybody else. I just, for whatever reason, when I was born again, God gave me back the spirit I had at like 12 or 13, which looks ridiculous on the outside, but feels really good on the inside. Okay, so this new guy, I don't even want to get into his stats here. He is a liberal. I will say that. He has spent his whole time as a cardinal in South America, which is very pagan, and then was converted to Catholicism through Our Lady, allegedly, and then now they're pagan again, and they've been pagan for a little bit. I don't know if that's public knowledge, but with the cartels taking over, it should be obvious that they're not Christ-like. Also, the people pushing, pew pews, who say they are Christ followers, they're trying to get you in error. Christ would not have done any of that. In the garden, when I think it was John cut off the ear of the Roman soldier, he told him to stop that. And Christ allowed himself to be taken without a fight. He never once fought back. Unfortunately, if you want to walk the walk of the real Christ, that is what it is going to look like, and that's what it's going to have to look like. I am getting to understand how God feels because my children rebuke me, and every place that I go, it's like I don't, it, they don't come right out and tell me not to come back, but it's just, and again, if you're a TI in this time, if you are fighting spiritual warfare at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't got to tell you. So to me, this Pope is only representative of a spirit that has already taken over the secular world as a whole. You will now see somebody, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the king, but he's going to be taken off of the board somehow, some way. You're already seeing his son take over a lot of the duties. I don't know if that's going to happen either. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but that's not going to fly. Like it's not going to be that, okay? I'm not sure what's going to happen there with the royal family, but something's going to happen. Um the other thing, and I'm not sure again why God, well actually, I get to be sure about why God tells me certain things, but let's go to I just honestly don't think with everything going on, I don't think they're going to have this man be pope for very long, and if they do, you're going to see this ecumenicism like take over. Like everybody is going to be of one mind. It is going to be some type of hive. Now, there is a difference between a hive and a Holy Spirit. God doesn't want us all to be automatons. God doesn't want us all to be the same, or He would have made us that way, and He would have never given us free will to make the wrong choices, to make the bad choices. But on the other team, that's what you see. They all get to talking alike. They all get to looking alike. They all get to sounding the same because they are literally legion, right? Like that's what it is. Now, there's a couple reasons I'm talking about this now. I know it's going to come off as ludicrous, but follow me just for a second because I'm going to, if you've watched the last few videos or even a couple videos from the last couple of months, I've talked about this topic a lot. It's not going to look like it at first, but just follow me just for a second. It won't take me long because I'm also in a hurry to get about my day. In German folklore, a doppelganger is a spirit double or replica of a living person, often viewed as a bad omen. So it's not a ghost, all right? It's not a ghost of you. Now, doppelgangers and skinwalkers and changelings, their lore is very similar. But again, follow me for a second because I'm coming to a real world place with this. It's a German word. Okay, German. Now remember, we are told that we won the war and that the Germans they wait, I'm getting something here, hold on. We're told that they surrendered to Britain, but if Britain also was still tied up in America, they could have agreed upon them just coming here. See, I've been getting the feeling, well, most of us get the feeling now that we didn't win the war. And a lot of our history, a lot of our words come from Latin, and that comes from Rome. But Germany has a lot of the occult background, and America seems to have soaked that right up. Okay, that's where I'm going with this. So just follow me for a second. Um, it's a German word meaning double goer, and the belief is that every person has an invisible, identical double who may appear as an apparition or a wraith. Seeing a doppelganger, particularly one's own, is often associated with impending death or misfortune. Now, don't accept or receive that as truth. Okay? Again, folklore, some of it is tied up in truth, but what you accept, believe, and receive at this time is going to be given to you. People are going to get what they ask God for, whether they realize they're asking or not. Okay, so don't accept, receive, or believe everything. There's a reason I'm going about this and the way I'm going about it. Spirit double. The doppelgangers believed to be a spirit double, an invisible replica of a living person. Bad omen. Encountering a doppelganger, especially your own, is considering bad luck. Okay, now they're not described as physical beings. That's the difference between them and skinwalkers. But they're all malevolent. Why? Skinwalkers are human. Well, they start out as human, and then they agree to be witches, according to the Navajo folklore. And in order to get the ability to shapeshift or to turn into a spirit, familiar animal, or to get the ability to turn into whoever they want, first they have to sacrifice a loved one, a family member. And after that, they have to become cannibals, like Hansel and Gretel. And I believe that's how they get the ability to look like a variety of different people, because they are what they eat. I know this, and again, I'm going this route for a reason. We've seen a lot of strange things. We've seen a lot of people, oh, this is Martha Stewart. Why does she look 20 years younger? Martha Stewart didn't even look like that 20 years younger. Why are they saying these people are who they clearly aren't? Why did Madonna look so puffy and poofy? If it's plastic surgery, well, why is everyone's plastic surgery failing at the same time, in the same year, at the same moment, when they're all different ages and they all went to different surgeons? Wake up, something crazy is happening here. But it points back to Germany, their interest in the occult, and the fact that America took their mad, quote unquote, mad scientists in, and they are who started NASA. And all of these things that we're dealing with today, like the blood over intent, the kids who did that, the Slender Man, all the kids who did that. I told you, Everyman Hybrid, that whole channel was legit. It was real, at first at least. And then they come back and say it's fake after the fact, okay? Because in part they are initiations into these Masonic things, and that's how they blackmail you, is they catch you doing something on film that you're not willing to admit to, and then they get you in their club through that blackmail. They are all tied into it through blackmail. It's not even because they like each other a lot of times. And what we're facing since 2019 with the masks and everything, that was all a mass secret initiation for the whole public. And that's why some people who participated legit seem to have lost their minds, or their minds are not their own. Again, they are legion. So back to the doppelganger. They are distinct from ghosts, which are believed to appear only after death. Some accounts suggest that doppelgangers might try to influence or mislead their living counterpart, potentially planning evil thoughts or offering bad advice. The concept of the doppelganger has been explored in literature, film, and other media. Now again, it has roots in German folklore, just like the Slender Man, just like, what else have we seen that we got from them? Oh, shoot. Hold, please, because I'm looking for something specific. Okay, so now just to show you, I know what I'm talking about. I think the genetic studies that they did, this is the reason we are seeing doubles. This is the reason that girl I worked with looked like Elizabeth Christ Trump. Because one, they are using, okay, for example, and again, I'm not a doctor, all my disclaimers are in the description box. For example, you know how injectables, they all come from the same batch of from the original injectable from the year 1972. They're all cloned from the same batch of injectables from 1972, from the same DNA, the same person, blah, blah, blah. The mRNA ones, I think. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is just what you learn from reading about these things. Now, the occultism and Nazism. The association of Nazism with occultism occurs in a wide range of theories, speculation, and research into the origins of Nazism and into Nazism's possible relationship with various occult traditions. Such ideas have flourished as a part of pop culture since at least the early 40s and gained renewed popularity starting in the 60s. Why is this prevalent? Because we're seeing a lot of this stuff replay today. The anti-Semitism, the anti-Christianity movements, the anti-love in life movements altogether, anti-life, anti-human movements. It's all the same. It all played out before. What's interesting, though, is in this time, they were all given a mark, too, weren't they? That's right. They were taken into those camps, and they were tattooed, weren't they? Now, exactly what time are we in? Because, let me just play devil's advocate here, pun intended. You know I don't really give much credence to us being in Satan's little season because I believe I know the Antichrist personally. But if we are in Satan's little season, that would mean that the tribulation already happened. Wouldn't this time period fit for that? Wouldn't the Nazism and all this, wouldn't that time period fit? Unless they're showing us pictures that don't really match, pictures that aren't really true, and they're framing it for us like they've always done. Why would they put tattoos on those people? Why would they want us to know who they are? Why did we read the other day that they made them wear the yellow stars? Because it was safer for them, because they had to be able to identify them. There's something otherworldly that is attached to all of this stuff. And people need to come out of this mesmerism or hypnotism and quit listening to the gaslighting. When somebody tells you, oh yeah, that person's just crazy, you need to look closer at what they're saying. Too many people now are having the same delusion all across the land about people not being quite themselves, people not being quite people. And if you could actually point back to a time when the occult seemed to run things and take over, and when a lot of things were done to open a lot of different doorways, esotericism in Germany and Austria during the 19th and early 20th. He introduces his work as underground history concerned with myths, symbols, and fantasies. Who's this guy? Historian Nicholas Goodrick. Okay, the occult roots of Nazism. And it doesn't really matter on what we believe, it matters what they believe. Now, all this stuff is tied in the Freemasonry, the Kabbalah, the Rosicrucianism. And also, they saw more UFOs and UAPs at that time than almost any other, except we see a lot of paintings with Our Lady Mother Mary and UFOs behind her from the Renaissance era, from a time when apparently everybody was so free that they didn't have to work, that they had all this time to create beautiful art, make fantastic inventions. The lands were fruitful, and everybody who was anybody knew that Christ was the Savior. They just knew. So what time are we in? And why did everyone have to get those marks, those tattoos? What was that about? And how many times are they going to replay it? Until we say, wait a second, and we truly wake up from whatever it is that's happening here. Because it happens over and over, and now it's happening instead of every 100 years. It looks like it's happening every 20, 25 years. Because it was every 100. And they haven't told you, again, like I said, the worst of it. But if they were all into these genetic tests, if they were into the occult and they were doing all these things, this would be about the generation when you would see their tinkering bear fruit. What do I mean by that? I mean by all the devils and the strange people that we're seeing right now in today's society. I mean all the behaviors and the strange outbursts that you're seeing, and people pretending like they're animals, and all of the old pictures that we ignored. People holding their hands, right? It looks like they're all around devastation and they're holding their hands, but there's something missing. But it looks like almost like they're holding a cell phone. I think the internet is a sentient being. I think when we ask AI a question, we're asking living beings somehow, some way they are sentient. Because life is water. Why does AI need so much water? Well, to cool it down. Well, yeah, sure. But again, water is life. They're giving us clues. They're just not telling us everything. What are we all hooked up to here? What is it really? And what time are we in? Is it some type of fallen angel we're all linked into? Because if you look at the cables they try to show you that are being cut, how the heck long have those been in the ocean? And again, we looked at the dates of all of it, but for the technology they say that we have, none of that matches up. None of it matches up. Why do we call a freeway when we drive on it? Why do we call a driveway when we park on it? Why do we call a parkway when you drive on it? And a freeway ain't free. Usually you get down the road a little bit, there's tolls to pay. Everything here is the opposite, man. Everything. So was this time a good time or a bad time that they're talking about? And who really was the good guys and who was the bad guys? And who, more importantly, ask the right questions, who were the UFOs actually helping? Who were the UAPs helping? Now, clones are another thing in this. But clone, the word itself means twin. Doppelganger. Project Paperclip did a lot of experimentation with twins. That Pope's age is 69. That is a twin Gemini astrological sign. The 6 and the 9 are intertwined on their sides for the Gemini sign. Twin pillars of Samson, of Freemasonry. We gotta find out what time we're in. Now, I gotta test my laptop again, so later on I might come on to do a reading of Jasher. But monitor this new pope. He won't be there long. And I have a feeling, and again, their technology is being used against them. I think we're gonna have that Roddy Piper they live moment, but I don't know how many people are actually ready to see the truth. And have your cameras ready, but if you have analog cameras that actually require a DVD, use those. And because I said this out loud, they'll probably be harder to find. Go find them. Go dig them up. Use those. There's a reason, and I'll tell you later. But use those and don't record over them. Okay? I don't think our images are supposed to be on those things. And there's some way the magnetic tapes does something. It shows more with magnetic tape. Digital allows them to run free. The magnetic tape does something. It doesn't allow them to run here and there. What did he tell God when he was in front of him about Job? When they were discussing Job, where have you been, he says. And he says, oh, running to and fro upon the earth. That reminds me of like internet signals and the highway of the internet. These are some things I've had on my mind. I love you guys. I'm planting. I can share some life posts over on the community tab. Not everybody likes those, so I don't share them all the time. But I am going to try and test my laptop a little bit later and do a reading. So if you're interested in hearing the continuation of the story of Jasher, I think it's important in these times. Not everybody is who they say they are. Love you too, sis. Mad love to all of you guys, even my enemies. More mad love to you, but I hope you leave here confused and confounded about the message and that you don't pass it along to your cohorts. To all those who love God, remember to try and stay in His will. And if you make a mistake or something happens, try to get right back up and dust yourself off. And if that's hard to do, reach out. Hopefully there will be somebody there for you. And hopefully you'll be there for somebody else. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. I'm going to go and try and tear up some dirt with a hoe all by with Sammy's help. He's not much help. I need to make a spot for either pumpkins and cucumbers or watermelon and cucumbers. I've not decided which yet. We'll see. Everything's an experiment. I didn't even know I could grow things till a few years ago, but it's important right now that you learn new skills as well. The more skills you have, the less things they're able to hold over your head. The less material things you own, the less they're able to hold over your head and manipulate you with. Because right now, again, they're using reverse psychology. They're telling everyone they're going to take away their security blankets so everybody holds on tighter to their poor behaviors and their addictions and their habits. And if those things get shut down and shut off, that will be God's doing. And I do know for a fact that technology right now is being used against them because it started out as God's, and He can pull rank anytime He chooses. Right, the one true God. I love you all. Stay blessed. Have a blessed day. We will talk more shortly. Bye, guys.